41% say that they're concerned if a civil war could erupt within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
16% said a civil war is very likely in that same time frame. And so, yeah, we're divided and people can't get out of the way of what they don't see coming. And you're right. I think that this is exactly what is happening, and it's destabilization. Now, why would you do that? Well, we're indebted beyond the ability to pay it back. And so how do you usher in a central bank digital currency? Well, the way that you do it is you blow up the entire system. You have all these people who are living off the dole. You blow up the entire system and you have a villain to point to. They did it to us. Now, that's the only way I think you can roll out a CBDC, because no one wants to take it. But if you're forced to take it, because what would happen? Let's just play this out. What would happen if OPEC and Saudi Arabia and the rest of the world who's had to accumulate dollars says we don't want them anymore? And you have a massive spike in interest rates as all of those dollars flood home and overwhelm the issuer, creating hyperinflation. Now you blame it on them, but what is inversely correlated? Stocks, bonds, real estate, the banking system. There's 900 banks on the FDIC list as being in danger territory, 350 in critically danger territory.
We just had one fail 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago there, right? So
all inversely correlated to a spike in interest rates. And you think the insurance companies are any better? They're all loaded with treasuries. So you see that moment, stocks, bonds, real estate, the banking system, the insurance companies, they all collapse. Have no fear. Number 2 in charge, Lael Brainerd is here, modern monetary theorist. She worked with, when she was at the Boston Fed, underneath Powell as number 2. And God forbid Trump doesn't win, she will be the head of the Federal Reserve. And by the way, to your point, even Trump, God forbid he doesn't get in. He's already talking about devaluing the dollar. Why? Because that's how you monetize the debt, by devaluing the dollar. And he's already talking about imposing more sanctions if countries want to move away from the dollar. That's not how you do it.
Today, we're diving into some concerning insights shared by Andy Schectman about the potential economic turmoil in the US. According to recent data, 41% of people fear a civil war could erupt within the next 5 years, with 16% believing it's very likely. Schectman discusses how destabilization and overwhelming debt might lead to the introduction of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. He warns that a collapse in stocks, bonds, real estate, and the banking system could force this shift, ultimately reshaping our financial landscape.
And so they sell their oil to China for yuan, or the petro yuan bond, either or, both convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is what? The only other tier 1 reserve asset in the world, which is what? Probably the backing of a new system. What did Kristalina Georgieva, the head of the IMF, say? She said a CBDC not pegged to something is fiat. What would be the logical thing to peg it to? The only other tier 1 asset. So are we too far down the rabbit hole? I kind of feel like we are. I think the acceleration will be if this knucklehead stays in power, we're in big trouble. But maybe Trump can slow the roll, so to speak, and we can work our way to unity and gaining back our credibility. But the damage, I would think, that has been done by our own administration over the last few years is greater than any foe could have ever done. We have taken that glass and broken it into a million pieces. Now go and try and put it back together. Can you do it? I don't think so. I hope not. I mean, look, dude, I got 3 kids. My youngest is 17, just turned the other day. I don't want them growing up in a world that's scary and unopportunistic, but it feels that is the path that we are on for now. And Lael Brainerd, modern monetary theorist. She developed the CBDC with MIT when Biden fast-tracked it by executive order. She just ran Point for Fed Now, which came out a few months ago, which is being piloted by some banks. It's Venmo and Zelle by the Fed on steroids, which would take the place of checks and wires. How do you get people to take it? If everything collapses at once, and Lael Brainerd would say, look, just sign on the dotted line, you guys, and we'll make you whole. I know your bank account and your insurance and your real estate and everything's collapsed. Just sign on the dotted line, take the CBDC, you'll be okay. And people will be forced to do it. Now, could that be the way it goes? Maybe. I don't know. You have to wonder the decisions that we're making. They lack so much common sense that could it be that Jared Bernstein is right, that the dollar reserve currency is a privilege we can no longer afford. So by telling the rest of the world where the linchpin of the hegemony is the petrodollar, we don't need petro anymore. And by weaponizing the dollar, saying, and if we don't like you, well, you're screwed. Well, that just makes everyone say, screw off. We're going a different direction. And with 80% of the world that isn't going green. So, and then you're sanctioning all our friends. Well, a lot of good that's doing, because we're still trading with them and giving them a back door to convert our currency on the M bridge, which sidesteps your ability to sanction on the SWIFT into gold, which the rest of the world has already said is money and is being remonetized as money that cannot be sanctioned by you fools. Even worse than that, he wants to impose 100. If you have over 100 million in assets, not sure how he figures that out, you will pay 25% annual unrealized capital gains, unrealized capital gains. These are the people who create the jobs and the people that can say, I'm out, goodbye, I'm going to go, I'm leaving the United States, I'm pulling up my tent, I'm leaving, I'm taking my job and my everything else with me and all my money, and I'm going to go sit on my yacht in the middle of the Caribbean or some
Not pay taxes.
Yeah, because
live on a boat.
It's just and you wonder, normally the phrase unintended consequences comes into play, but here again, is it intended? Are they trying to do this? Are they trying to level the global playing field, bring the United States down to a level that the rest of the world is at? Maybe. I don't know, you guys. And I hate being such a buzzkill because I think about it all the time. But I think it's getting to that point.
Well, continuing the discussion, Andy Schectman's insights, highlighting how Ray Dalio's prediction is unfolding before our eyes. Schectman references Dalio's warning that a currency's terminal decline is marked by the mass selling of its debt, forcing central banks to print money to buy it, leading to devaluation. This scenario mirrors what's happening with US 10-year treasuries, where major buyers are dwindling and the Federal Reserve is stepping in to maintain the dollar's supremacy. This currency devaluation signals deep economic trouble ahead.
This is kind of like maybe the fall of the Roman Empire in a way.
It totally is. And look, there's a fine line between pessimism and realism. And and I don't remember which one of you said it, but I would rather be able to see what's coming to get out of the way of it best I can than to be blindsided by it. But that's exactly what it is. We have overextended ourselves in a very big way, just like the Roman Empire did. We have overextended ourselves in every single way. Just think of how costly it is to maintain the hundreds of military bases around the country, that thousands of mile infrastructure, supply chain line. The costs of war, fuel, materials, and troops are very costly. That air link of 10,000 miles, and it's called Imperial overstretch. And you try to cover all your bases, you become overextended and vulnerable and bankrupt, and and that's where we are. And I think that's exactly what is happening. And it's not. When you talk about half the country being furious, no matter how the election comes out, it's true. Yeah, it really is. And like this is an example of what I mean by just how divided we all are, right? So you have this idiot named Hakeem Jeffries, and he is the House Minority Leader. And he did an interview last Sunday with CBS News, and he came out and said that if the Ukraine doesn't win the war using the billions, 200 billions of dollars worth of U.S. military aid, then Washington could potentially have to intervene directly in the conflict, meaning, boots on the ground. But this is what I mean. What I'm about to read to you right here is how messed up this country is. Now, I am not a chauvinist at all. Okay. Zero. I believe women can do great things. And in my company, I have women in very high positions. We can't let the Ukraine fall, because if it does, there's a significant likelihood that America will have to get into the conflict, not simply with our money, but get this, but with our service women and our service men. I mean, can we, for God's sakes, just knock this shit off already? I mean, just call it what it is, right? Okay. I mean, talk about pandering. And then he says, I mean, and I'm not coming down on service women, but who would ever say it that way? Who would ever freaking say it that way? And then he says, meanwhile, Jeffries claims that U.S. efforts to support Ukraine, including pushing a new $61 billion assistance package through Congress, has been stymied by what he calls a pro-Putin faction. Now get this shit, right? within the Republican Party. He calls Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a lightning rod, a Putin loyalist. Why? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has called for funds to be used for the domestic needs rather than sent to the Ukraine. God forbid we give money to the police so that they can help stop the lawlessness in the cities. No, we need to give that with no congressional oversight to the Ukraine. We're so far gone, you guys. We're so far gone, and half the country's lost its frickin' mind that, yeah, this is not going to be pretty however it ends. And is it doom and gloom, or is it realism? Is there a fine line between realism and pessimism? I don't know. But, you got the German chancellor, he's an idiot too, saying that the interest earned from the Russian assets should be used for weapons for the Ukraine. This is Chancellor Olaf Scholz. I mean, come on already. At what point do we not realize the consequences of doing this? And it's growing by the day. And Ray Dalio said it best. He says the clearest indicator of when a currency is in terminal decline is when those who hold its debt sell it. Well, that's what they're all doing. And its central bank has to print money to buy the debt in large quantities. This creates a currency devaluation. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly what's happening. Who's buying our 10-year treasuries? Who would be stupid enough to do that? I know, the Federal Reserve. Jim Willey, who is a little bit more controversial than I am, but very smart, says that the United Kingdom, who is going to quickly surpass China as number 2, and Ireland and the Cayman Islands, these are the 3 biggest holders of treasuries, are number 3, 4, and 5. Well, he says the Fed's just giving them money under the table to buy those treasuries to maintain the dollar supremacy. All I can tell you is that, yes, this is real. It's going to get worse. The divisiveness will get worse. And we are so far gone and divided and ununited and completely diverged from what made this country great that come November, I don't see this being any better, probably just a whole hell of a lot more angry as half of the country expresses their anger. Right now, they're just hopeful that their side wins.
Thanks for watching today's video. We've covered key points from Andy Schectman, discussing civil unrest, hyperinflation, and the push for a central bank digital currency. If you found this insightful, give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.